it was a family that pulled that thing together. You know, it was the marketing group, the communications group, our frontline staff from SEIU and AATU that were out there, our planning folks out there. It was staffed by a bunch of different people out there, and it really was a nice event. And Director Foley was out there, and we had it was more of a social thing than it was director and GM thing, but it was just such a well put together event. I just wanted you to all know that you should have seen the video on it and the pictures and all of that. But I can't think of an area, and I'm pretty critical about how it could have been better. And you just walked in across this like threshold of blue carpeting, and there's a coat check there. I mean, it literally was like a BART prom where you could actually, and not worry about, and not being there, and it was just a nice thing. And so everybody that had anything to do with that, I just wanted to thank everybody on that. The BART March, later today, Director Hernandez, President Hernandez, we're going to be out at the Castro Valley Station with our BART Mart pop-up kind of a thing, 3 to 6. And I know you're tracking on it. You've been sent all the information on it. And there'll be some retail activations there, and local anime artists are going to be selling some stuff there. So that's today, 3 to 6. Next Generation Fairgates is going to get its 4th major award, and this is a pretty big one too. This is the APTA 2026 Rail Security Gold Award. And so it's a big deal, and it's going to be presented at APTA Rail Conference in Baltimore at the end of this month. And then a couple of updates on the Pride events and celebrations that are right around the corner here. So on Tuesday, we're going to hold an event here, Tuesday the 23rd. It'll be in this boardroom from 11 to 1, and it's going to be a brief presentation. Then there'll be a panel discussion, and we'll have 3 folks there. Director Wright will be part of that panel. We'll have Dennis Markham, who runs Point for us on so many things, and Marshallette Ramsey. And just as you know, Marshallette is running Point for BART on all things FIFA. She is the point of contact, the face of BART for all the FIFA interactions with all the other agencies out there. But she's going to take time from those efforts to sit on this panel here for our BART Pride event. And then the San Francisco BART Pride event is the 28th. We'll have a group participating there, the employees and their families, so that'll be a big event there. And as always, we'll be running longer trains and extra event trains to supplement service. And then I have in front of me here from Kevin and his team our BART PD Pride Patch. And I think he's going to hand, to President Foley and Vice President one of these. The patch was designed and coordinated with Officer Shayna Holmes, who oversaw the creation of this thing. There's a limited these left. I think you're getting complimentary ones, or we'll buy them for you, I will. And then for the employees, I think they're $10 each. And so anyways, it's a nice looking patch that the chief gave me this morning, and nice material. So where's Kevin? Nice, well done there, Kevin. And so directors, I know it was a little bit long, but there's a lot going on and a lot of good things. There's a lot to be proud of. Right now, within where BART is and where BART's headed right now. So I just wanted to make sure you're tracking at each and every one of those. So I'll turn it back over to you, President.
Thank you, GM. And I was on BART yesterday in San Francisco, and I already see that the stickers were out on the floors with regards kind of directing people where they're at.
To the FIFA.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm assuming also that we're going to have our folks with the blue jackets.
Yep. We'll have so many.
The famous blue jackets.
Best volunteers. We'll have our managers out there. I have one of the smartest. I don't want to antagonize John McCormick, but some people say he's the smartest rail operation planner in the Bay Area. But he's got a guy, John Fitzgibbons, who's been sitting up here in front of you. He will be out there Tuesday night when the wave of people come back. He will be marshaling and directing traffic at Milpitas, making sure everybody gets on the right late event trains and that he's taken that. So we'll have plenty of people out there, Hernandez.
Perfect.
President Hernandez, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
for sure.
Sounds good.
We have two members of the public that wish to speak. Barty Smits, followed by Alita Dupree. Barty?
My name is Barney Spence. I'm a licensed professional engineer with over 25 years experience as a BART engineer and fire life safety expert. Thank you, General Manager Powers, for your comments on ridership in the public events. Last weekend's BART 1980s prom looked like fun. It was a little loud at our place 2 blocks away, but seemed to be very effective and successful. Did you work with President Hernandez to establish the BART subcommittee on the BART to Silicon Valley project? Did you get Director Ames, Rayburn, Flores, and Lee copies of the 14 plus variances from the BSV2 project that are significantly reducing safety for BART patrons, employees, and first responders? Did you direct BART Engineering and BART Safety to inform the BSV2 representatives, Mr. McGuire and Mr. Metzger, that BART will not allow any changes to the design fire criteria? The 14.9 megawatt peak heat release rate and the instantaneous fire growth rate are in the BFS. They are included in the project's DCM, and they were agreed to and signed off on by BART and BSV2 project engineers, and they are clearly a contract requirement. It was clear that neither Mr. McGuire nor Mr. Metzger fully understand the requirements of the BART safety standards or the project's specific design criteria manual. Take the lowered walkways in tunnels. The old BART cars had grab bars by some of the exit doors. If patrons had to exit to a lower walkway in a tunnel, they could use the grab bar. There are no grab bars on the fleet of the future cars. The lowered walkways will significantly reduce exiting times and greatly increase injuries during an emergency event. They are trying to reduce costs by minimizing the BART requirements, and this is endangering BART patrons, employees, and first responders. Please return to the tried and tested 50 years of operating BART safety standards. Thank you.
And our next speaker is Alita Dupree. Alita?
Thank you. Good morning, President Melissa Hernandez and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds, representing the very best of Skirt Folds. Very good report today. Ridership is coming up. I want more people to ride on BART. Pun intended, BART needs all the help that it can get. Lots going on with FIFA. Thank you for not charging higher fares like some systems are on the East Coast. So people can pay regular fares and using BART, including reduced fares. Thank you. I definitely support tap and ride, especially if you're coming from somewhere else. Just use your card or device and not have to keep a balance. So I'm with you on that. And I'm intrigued by this BART prom. You know, I still have not made it back to the Bay Area. I wonder if anyone at the BART prom wore a skirt with folds. I'm trying to find a new skirt with folds. And our fare gates have won an award. I did send you a picture of BART-style fare gates in New York City, in Brooklyn. And I'm looking forward to seeing those pride patches. Pride is very, very important. It sets the tone of welcoming into our system. And believe me, BART needs a lot of that. I did read about plans for BART service in later hours. We're going to run express trains. We can tell our transit enthusiast community that you don't necessarily have to go all the way to New York to ride an express route. You can do it on BART in the wee hours of the morning. How about that? But what do I take from all of this? This I see company in. That BART is the people's system. Thank you.
And that was the last public speaker.
All right, thank you. We will move right along to item number 3, which is our administration items, and I will go ahead and pass this over to Director Lee.
All right, thank you, President Hernandez. Good morning. We have 3 items for administration, which are all for action. All 3 items are items also that we have seen before the board in the past and I know we've all been offered briefings extensively from staff. So given that, I have asked staff to approach these presentations with brevity. Since nearly all of the information has already been presented publicly in past meetings as well. And so on our end as board members, my goal is to get to a vote on each of the items as smoothly and as amicably as possible. So I'd ask for my colleagues' collaboration in getting there. So staff, if you'd like to go ahead with 3A, the authorization for the Metropolitan Transportation Commission Financial Efficiency Review Strategies, which we did receive a presentation on last time.
Thank you, Chairperson Lee. With that good introduction, I will turn this over to Michael Eisman. He's our Director of Financial Planning. He'll walk us through this short deck, then we'll turn it back over to you.
Good morning, board members. This is an action item to consider approval of the early action strategies from Phase 1 of the SB 63 Financial Efficiency Review. To briefly review, SB 63 includes several accountability measures, one of which is an independent third-party financial efficiency review of BART, SFMTA, Caltrain, and AC Transit. Phase 1 of the review is complete. It was overseen by MTC, completed by a team of outside consultants, and approved by the Financial Efficiency Review Oversight Committee on May 22nd. The study recommended early action strategies for each operator. These are actions operators can take within the next 1 to 3 years to improve service without additional resources. Under SB 63, operator boards must take formal action to identify the specific strategies from the Phase 1 report it commits to implementing. This is the action that staff recommends taking today. Should the regional revenue measure pass in November, a second phase of the financial efficiency review will begin next year. There are 8 strategies in the report, and all of them are consistent with the policy direction set by this board. The first 4 are related to generating revenue. They are to improve fare compliance and enforcement by continuing to optimize fare gate performance and continuing the station hardening program. To enhance parking revenue using tools such as rate adjustments, enforcement, and leasing parking at underutilized facilities. Continuing to monetize fiber and other communications assets through additional leasing opportunities. And finally, conducting a study to assess the benefits, challenges, and opportunities of expanding retail and/or amenity partnerships at the stations. Note that the station retail item was added by the Oversight Committee after mail-out of our May 28th board info item. Station retail opportunities and challenges were last examined in some detail in 2024, but staff is happy to revisit and update the challenges and opportunities. We have 3 items related to cost. These are continuing to identify opportunities to improve transit travel time and reliability through scheduling, operations, and investments in new systems or capital projects. Continuing to right-size the fleet to serve demand, including looking at adjusting train lengths during lower demand periods, and examining contracts for opportunities to reduce costs, including with our public agency partners. And finally, on ridership and customer experience, the report recommends continuing to work to expand Clipper Bay Pass to more institutions and employers. In summary, each of these strategies is consistent with current board policy and ongoing staff initiatives. And just a reminder that the Phase 1 study is complete, and SB 63 requires a board action on this topic. So to close it out, staff recommends approval of the motion to adopt the early action strategies.
Thank you. We'll go to public comment in just a moment, but I do want to recognize and thank Director Rinn for serving on the SB 63 Financial Efficiency Review Independent Oversight Committee. And also just to confirm with staff, the action here is to accept all of the recommendations for early action strategies that were developed in the Phase 1 process, right?
That's the staff recommended motion.
Yes.
It's up to the board to decide.
Great, thank you. All right, do we have any in-person public comment on this?
There are no in-person public comments.
And then we have Alita Dupree online.
Yes, Alita, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Janice Lee and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. I appreciate the leave and standing to speak. I come to you with 56 years of experience in using the New York City subway. These are good recommendations. I would accept all of them. I do see here one of particular note to me is right-sizing train lengths. That gives us the advantage of having more close presence because people feel more comfortable when there's more people in a train with them as opposed to being in an empty train car. but also it saves electricity. I talk about electricity a lot. And I really think a ninth matter should be focusing on our electricity purchasing to buy the cleanest and cheapest electricity we can. And they go together. That's a huge item. It takes about $430 million of electricity to run the New York City subway. I'm just showing that should not be overlooked. Retail is helpful. Yes, let's see if we can lease out some space and fiber in a data connected world. There's always more need for improving communications, and we have right of way that we can do that. I have been to a meeting of this financial review board, and it's necessary work. In Boston, the MBTA, I think, is run by a group called the Financial Control Board. Fair compliance is essential, and yes, I do believe that the new fare gates are working. So I think we're on to some good things, but we have to make sure first and foremost as we implement these that we remember that BART is the people's system. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. Looks like we do have an in-person public comment. So if Kim Ship would like to come up and comment on item 3A.
Good morning, board members and president of the board. My name is Kim Ship, and I am just your ordinary citizen. And I'm here on behalf of the homeless. I saw where you said that you were going to expand Clipper cards for other institutions and employees. I'm here to more or less advocate that we do something about the homeless who don't have money to catch BART, and then they wind up going to jail. So if BART can possibly do something like have a set-aside fund for fare evaders. And one of the reasons why I'm here is because I have one of my church members, she's 80 years old, so I told her I would come down here on her behalf, that she has a son who's mentally ill, that's always evading fares and wind up going to jail. What if the relative was able to set aside a pass? She's tried to give him a pass, but because of his mental illness, he never used it. But if we create some sort of system where the evaders, particularly if a family member is paying, could be able to go through there without going to jail. In addition to that, maybe BART can set aside a certain amount of money per month to help homeless. Not necessarily something that you advertise, because we don't want people taking advantage of the system, but something that you can do as a benevolence for regular invaders, so to speak. So you don't waste your resources with BART police having to arrest people, and the people don't wind up constantly in jail with their relatives worrying about where they are. And so basically, like I said, I'm down here for a church member. Her son is mentally ill. She's 80 years old, and I told her that I would come and address the BART Board of Directors. Thank you.
Kim, thank you so much for your comment. I know I'm looking right at our police chief, Kevin Franklin. I know sitting next to him is our head of Rod, our head of community and government relations. If folks from your teams would be able to chat with Kim about all of our different programs, our passes, our homeless services, I think that'd be great. Kim, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you. So who would I?
They're right behind you. They'll chat with you in just a moment.
Thank you.
We got you. All right, seeing no other public comment on this item, I'd like to invite my board colleagues to use a tablet to let me know if you'd like to speak. First up will be Director Flores, Director Ames, then Director Rayburn.
Thank you all for the presentation. I'll keep my remarks brief since we've gone over these items before, but just want to highlight that it's obvious that cutting expenses will not be enough to get us to a balanced budget and maintain quality service. So exploring different revenue opportunities is a big interest of mine, and I think for everybody else as well. Specifically with retail and amenity partnerships, I've expressed my interest in seeing our stations be activated, and I know that the resources that go into something like BART Prom and Van Train are substantial. So while I do support the efforts to bring retail amenities and activations, I also want to acknowledge that it's not going to be easy for BART staff to do that all by ourselves. This is going to require the effort not just of BART, but also local government, businesses, and community partners. So making sure that we can bring all of those together to do something like this is not just a BART-only project. So I do support staff's efforts to explore this, and I'm also happy to be of support to BART staff in any way that I can. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Director Flores. Director Ames?
Yeah, can we go to slide 2, please? I just wanted to, oh, sorry, I have to look at this. Oh, yeah. So that part on the right here, it says phase 2 if a measure passes. Menu of cost-saving measures, admin, operating capital, and regional development of financial strategy. What does this do? Are we starting to create something like this menu of cost savings?
So this would be a more in-depth follow-up stage of the study, and MTC will, if a revenue measure should pass in November, MTC would contract with another consulting team and kick off a longer process that hit on some of these same topics in more detail.
Okay, I guess I wanted to go to the slide that shows the right sizing of the rail cars. I'm not sure what that slide is. Yeah. Sorry, oh, there it is, the fleet, sorry. So this kind of, I'm just thinking that BART should be already looking at right sizing, that we're right sizing the fleet. That's a good idea. We've tried this, it's working. But then I hope to look at right sizing the agency. So that to me is, I guess, ongoing. We could be doing this now and into phase 2, because phase 2 doesn't begin until next summer. Is that next June, did you say? Right. So that's quite a bit of time from now. So I'm thinking that we must be developing some list of cost-saving measures, and I'm hoping that we can add that piece into phase 2, right-sizing the agency, and also talk about the infrastructure development and the state of good repair and the importance of that. Those are the 2 ideas I had for that second phase. I'm sure we're working on this now. I'm looking over at the engineering folks over here and the maintenance folks. So thank you. I feel like this report is just really high level, but we need to get into that detail sooner than next June. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ames. As a reminder, I do want to be thoughtful when we use the term like we should, because the folks who are doing the report, the analysis, it's led by MTC with a third-party outside consultant performing the analysis. Is that correct? And that would be the same for phase 2, right?
Yes, that is correct. It would be an independent third-party consultant.
Got it. Thank you. Then we have Director Rayburn, then VP Wright.
Thank you very much, Chair Lee. I'm in full agreement with all the elements that are in the financial efficiency review. And I look forward to things like right sizing in both directions. We sometimes need to augment the service that we offer, as well as the suggestion here is to run shorter trains during lower demand periods. And I hope we can explore that fully. I'm also excited about the retail prospects at our stations on a regular basis. It's something we explored over a decade ago. It fizzled out, but I think we can resurrect the better elements that we discovered during that process. And I feel it's very important to note that this is not a document created by BART. This is a document that resides on the MTC website, mtc.ca.gov. That's where you will find it. It applies to BART, Caltrans, SF Muni, and AC Transit. The full documentation. The presentation that we're seeing here today is specific to just BART. So with that said, I would like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Director Rayburn. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, we have a second from Director Flores. All right, Vice President Wright.
Thank you. Really appreciate the presentation. I want to express my enthusiasm for the addition of the retail and amenities recommendation. I know that's been something that we've discussed as a board previously. I also know it's something that you've looked at previously, but would just note about half of this board was not here in 2024. So would definitely appreciate a renewed discussion on that. And aside from that, just wanted to, I think, again, express how I think we should feel vindicated and validated by the fact that these third-party experts have come in and put forward a set of recommendations that, from my view, are wholly aligned with the priorities that we've set as an agency and that we've set as a board. So full speed ahead. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other comments from the board, I think this goes to show, I'll just end by saying, I think this goes to show that we have continually been going in the right direction, given there was an independent review, and it shows that all the recommendations were things that were somewhere in the pipeline already, and I think that this review will give us a kick in the butt to get moving a little bit faster on some things, to prioritize different initiatives we already had in the pipeline. So I do appreciate, and I think it says a lot, that we are accepting all of the recommendations wholeheartedly. And yeah, so let's go to the vote on this.
Director Ames.
Yes.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Ghosh.
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
Director Rayburn.
Yay.
Director Ridd.
Yes.
Vice President Wright.
Aye.
President Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes 9-0.
All right, thank you. So next up is 3B, the state loan agreement with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. This is a follow-up on all of the things related to the state loan. And so, yes.
Thank you. Joe Beach, our CFO, will walk you through the EDD that's in your board packet.
Thank you, Pam, and good morning, directors. So we have completed our negotiations with MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, on the state loan, and we're now requesting authority from the board for the general manager to execute the agreement. The loan terms are fundamentally the same as we've briefed the board on before, with a couple of changes that actually benefit BART, one of which is we will receive the loan proceeds, the $285 million loan proceeds, in 2 semi-annual installments, the first later this month and the second in January of 2027. And second, while BART is responsible for all the interest on the $285 million loan beginning July 1, MTC has agreed to credit all the interest earnings on the loan proceeds they'll hold until January to BART and will offset the interest due beginning in 2027. With that, we do recommend the board authorize the general manager or his designee to execute the loan agreement with the MTC for $285 million, and I can take any questions you might have.
All right, always appreciate the brevity here. Before we go to any board member questions and comments, let's go to public comment. I don't see any in-person public comment yet on this, so we'll go to Alita Dupree online.
Thanks again, Chair Janice Lee and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. I have some experience in this area. I actually do have a Visa card with a credit union, and while I'm not the biggest fan of borrowing money, I think this is something that we have to do. Hopefully the interest rates will be favorable, and I'm interested in hearing more about this crediting situation. That should help us. It looks to me like this will be a distribution and not a credit line, so all of the money will be tendered to us for us to use. Hopefully, if we don't use all of it, we will get appropriate interest earnings to offset this, which would have an effect somewhat as if we didn't draw down a credit line in full. I don't know if I should call the MTC crediting like a grace period. I get like a 25-day grace period, I think. And as long as I pay it off, my account off in full before the due date, then I don't get charged interest. I've never paid interest on it. I think my rate is like 14% if I did. I don't know. I hope we're not paying 14% on this. I doubt it. Maybe I'm thinking 4 or 5. So getting these deposits will help us during the time when hopefully the revenue measure will pass, and then we have to wait for the revenue measure money to come in. So I mean, we have to go forward with this. But I ask that we treat this deposit with great care. And remember that this money belongs to the people's system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alita. We do have another online public comment from Roland LeBrun.
Good morning and thank you. This is a very quick question. I'm looking at the two proposals on the website, and the question is about source of funds for the loan. The first one is talking about TERSIP, and the second one is talking about STA. And I'm wondering whether the second one basically replaces the first one, or so essentially what I would like to know is where the source of funds are coming from. Is it TERSIP, STA, or what? Thank you.
Can our CFO answer that question?
Yes, the source of funds is the TERSIP grants. And the STA is mentioned because we were required as part of the terms of AB 117 to pledge the state transit assistance revenue that we receive from the state for security for the loan. So that's not a source of funds for the loan. Just the TERSIP. Just TERSIP.
All right, thank you. Okay, I don't see any other public comment on this item. I also currently don't see any board comments, which is very, very okay, but we do need a motion and a second to move forward on this.
Happy to move the item.
I'll second.
Great, thank you. Do we have any comments on this? This is something that we are required to do and comes after long discussion. So seeing no board comments on this, let's go to the vote.
Director Abes.
Yes.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Ghosh.
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
Director Rayburn.
Yay.
Director Ridd.
Yes.
Vice President Wright.
Aye.
President Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you so much, board colleagues. We just have one more item for administration, and that is a resolution to adopt the fiscal year 2027 budget. Speaking of things that we have talked about a lot and has gone through a lot of negotiation. So as this item, I don't think that there is any new information in this presentation, but I still think, of course, it's important to go through the slides that you've prepared today. And before you jump in, Chris, we are at a point where we are taking a vote today. We have to take a vote to keep the district, to keep our service, to keep BART running. So this is a critical, necessary, and important vote. And based on how past conversations have gone, I have a pretty good sense of, where my board colleagues are at. So as we get into the board comments and discussions, I really would love to hear from everyone, even if it's the briefest of comments. And this is a point where we are trying to explain or give rationale to how we are voting. I do not expect like a lengthy back and forth to try to get answers or, feedback from staff. I think staff, if there are opportunities that you are providing more information on different pieces in the future, please share that. But at the end of this, we really need to pass a budget. And that is one of the most important things that we do, that we are elected by voters to do. So with that, Pam, Chris, team, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson Lee. That was an excellent setup. I'll turn it over to Chris Simi. He's BART's Budget Director.
Hey, good morning, directors. Christopher Simi, BART Budget Director here, and let's just hope this is the last time you see me this fiscal year, maybe for a few months. And I will try to be brief here, but to hit some important pieces. So this is our executive summary slide, and it just really reinforces some things we've covered already. I think, the key point is we have not changed any numbers in the budget since what we showed to you 2 weeks ago. So we really endeavored to give you as much time to dwell on this as possible and not make any sort of last minute changes or have any last minute surprises. And a couple keynotes, really about the operating budget here, and some things that we just wanted to, I think, highlight and reiterate. Again, this is sort of the BART as it exists today budget, full service, current staffing, all that stuff. It assumes the passage of the regional tax measure. Some good news we've had, just, strong revenue as the GM sort of alluded to earlier, and some cost controls. We think we're going to have a pretty significant amount of carry forward from the current year, which is really going to help out next fiscal year. We are clocking that at $52.4 million right now. That number will likely change. And also that we've put in some efficiencies. We've all talked about this. We know they're not going to solve the structural deficit, but we need to do everything we can. And you'll sort of see some of the impacts of that on the 5-year projection. Okay, and so I alluded to when I said the 52.4, there's a few things here. I think, we said that the numbers aren't going to change or have not changed, but the numbers will change in the future. No budget is perfect, and we wanted to highlight a few things that we are pretty sure will change here and that will affect things. And so first, you've all sort of heard about what's going on with our LC top funding. That's worth about $7 million in fiscal 27. We are not, it's in the budget, we are not, we don't feel great about seeing that money at this time. So that's likely going to be a variance mid-year. And then how we close out this current year, fiscal 26, will of course impact how much carry forward we have. And then there's a lot of effects that has on sort of how much we borrow. Same thing with the LC top money, all those things. So those will all change. And I think I would say, look forward to a deeper sort of heavy update presentation sometime early in the fall once we sort of know where we stand with FY26 year-end close. We have some more ridership information, some early FY27 spending data. So that'll be, I think, the next big substantive financial update for you guys. Okay, so we have, I think, 3 slides of numbers here. And again, none of these have changed, so I'm not going to walk you through them. I'm just going to sort of show them to you and say, this is the proposed operating budget. This next slide here, same thing as before. This is our proposed, not same thing, but same situation. Numbers have not changed since 2 weeks ago. This is our proposed capital budget for FY27. And then this is our 5-year operating outlook. I'll pause on this one just to say on the operating side that you do see deficits in those out years there. Without some of the work we've done over the last couple of years to reduce our expenses and eliminate vacant positions, things like that, those numbers would be higher. So, we don't love a 57 in FY28. It's much better than $365 million. And just I would say we plan to continue to work on how to address those that last remaining piece of deficit over the coming several months. So also expect updates on that. Okay, and so per a recently enacted state law, I am required to read the language on this slide out to you, so just bear with me. In compliance with Government Code Section 54953D3A, staff is required to verbally confirm that with this action, the board has approved the recommended pay bands for executives and department managers shown on Exhibit B of the budget resolution. Okay, that's done. And here's the motion to approve the budget. And before we move this, though, I normally take a moment just to thank staff here, particularly the operating and capital budget teams. You see this very short, simple PowerPoint. There's a lot more work that goes into the development of the budget. It's actually a tremendous amount of work, and it's not just those 2 teams I mentioned. There's so many people around the district who support that work. I don't have the time to name all of them right now, but I do want to just thank sort of everybody for the work they've done, and also the board for the feedback you guys have provided over the past several months. And then, if you'll just, I think, indulge for one more moment here, This is the budget that Bart has proposed that we are asking you to adopt. This is the budget that we want to happen. It's the budget that I think we are confident will happen over the next fiscal year. There's obviously a chance that doesn't happen, that doesn't come to pass. And so, I was thinking earlier about how does this all work, right? There's things we can control and there's things we can't control in the world. And I'm not going to talk about the things we can't control, but the things we can control sort of the vision and the strategy that we have of putting out great service, continuing to put out good service, and we can execute on that. And I think just sort of in that context, in this sort of they're all big fiscal years, but this feels like a really big fiscal year for BART. I think, there's over 4,000 people at BART who show up every single day and have been putting out great service for the past several years. And again, that is the thing that we can control here. And I just want to, I don't know if it's acknowledge or thank or whatever the right word is there, just all the staff at BART for continuing to do this every single day, because that is, I think, the thing that we can control here. So with that, I think, done speechifying. We will move on to, public comment. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I really do appreciate those words as a reminder to sort of ground ourselves, because, for some of us, I'm looking at, Director Ames, Foley, Rayburn. These have been some real rough years. There's not been a budget where I'm like, yay. It's been really, really hard. And I think it's a good reminder that behind all of these numbers, there are actual humans. There are people who are running this system. There are folks who are crunching these numbers and recognizing that there are different scenarios that are really tough to stomach. But at the end of the day, we are a transit system that's trying to move folks around, keep our region running, and we do that through what we say in our budget. So thank you for those words. Before we go to board comments, we'll do public comment, and I do see Alita Dupree is online.
Thanks again, Chair Janice Lee, for the standing to speak. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. We used to have a court reporter to come in and take testimony on budgets, so we don't have that. But I hope that my comments here will have the appropriate standing anyway. Again, thank you for not raising fares, and thank you for not curtailing the reduced fare programs. And thank you for not using this budget as a way to raise fares for FIFA. Well, FIFA will be done by then. I think it's a good basic budget, and we have to move lots of things around, and that happens in all kinds of situations. I am hopeful that we will get more people riding on BART. Hopefully people will do like I did 17 years ago and give up their cars, decide to spend money on public transportation, then they have money to do other things. I did see that electricity is getting very high. $88 to $93 million for electricity. I can understand that if we're going to be running more trains and therefore using more kilowatt hours. But if that is an issue of purchasing in higher rates, that does concern me, especially when solar power sometimes goes negative in the middle of the day. We can buy power in our own name. So we have to pass this. I remember a few years ago that we had a very long meeting, and it kept getting bounced around, and it was several hours later that we took a vote today. I hope you'll all stand behind this budget, because without a budget, we can't operate the people's system. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. Do we have any other online or in-person public comment on the passage of this action before us, which is to adopt the FY27 budget?
There are no additional public comments.
Great. I see that nearly every director is wishing to speak. So I'm actually going to open up with our President Emeritus, Mark Foley. And then I think what I'd like to do is literally just go down the line right to left.
Thank you, Chair Lee. Over 2 years ago, in early 2024, Senate Bill 1031 was introduced, and we began the journey to identify additional operating funding. I asked staff at the time, if we put all our eggs in this one basket and it doesn't pass, what's our plan B? This budget acknowledged the hard work that staff put in over the last 2 years to give us that opportunity to move forward. It shows us the potential reality and allows BART to plan for two futures. This isn't a budget that I necessarily want to pass, but it's a budget we need to pass for our own future. It acknowledges the global change in how people work in the Bay Area and around the world, and really how ridership patterns have changed. But it also acknowledges that we want to provide the best possible service to our Bay Area, and it acknowledges that we are an employer and we care about our BART family and our family members. I want to thank staff for all of the very hard work over the last 2 years you've put into bringing this to us today. I'd like to support this motion, and I would like to move the item. Thank you.
Thank you for moving the item. Can I entertain a second on that? Thank you, Director Ghosh. All right, so as I said, we'll go right to left, and then President Hernandez, if you'd like to speak last, I'm more than welcome to. All right, Director Ames.
Thank you. Can we just go to slide 6, I think it is, the 5-year plan? Oh, 6, I guess? Yeah. Okay, this is kind of the big picture. This is a good slide. Maybe, Chris, this is your favorite slide, but I think our FY27 budget is insufficient with the rising operating costs, costs that we have. And we have less investment in our infrastructure that impacts reliability. So I would just point out that we have a $14 billion 10-year backlog. This is unfunded capital needs. That's about $1.4 billion of unfunded needs per year that we need right now. So this is quite scary because we obviously need more infrastructure funding. And when I see this this forecast, I'm thinking, how are we going to accomplish this with the increased inflation and there's tariffs? So the sooner we do infrastructure, the better, capital projects. So in FY27, FY27, we reduced our capital programming, and it's noted in this document. We had about $1.5 billion in infrastructure capital projects, excluding the rail cars. Forget it. And right now, we're at $566 million. So we're $1 billion under the capital investment that we tried to plan out for 10 years. Thank you. We tried to do a 10-year plan on capital investment. So not only do we have an unfunded need, it's over $1 billion, then we have a funding need right now in our plan that we're not meeting either. So the other issue I have with the budget is that our operating, our overtime expenses for operating costs are going up. So we're about at 84 million in the budget. And I recall I looked at FY 2019 and we had a 20 million or 25 million, say, budget for overtime. So our overtime has dramatically gone up over, since 2019 up to 2027. And finally, I would like to see, this is what I had brought up at the last budget hearing, last year, that we need to right-size the agency. We have an organizational chart that needs to show position titles, and the positions tied to a budget cost center. And this is what LA Metro has done for 11,000 employees. So when I talk about right-sizing the agency, trying to reduce our operating expenses, you would think that we would focus on that to get more capital projects if this makes sense. You want to increase your capital investment to improve reliability. You cannot improve reliability for our customers if you reduce the infrastructure spending which we have for Measure RR. So those are my thoughts. I am not supporting this budget. I think it's a work in progress. It's a strategy. Like Chris, I do appreciate you said this word. We want to have a controlled strategy. And I think our strategy is not focused in the right areas when it comes to capital investment. And then again, our operating expenses are going up every year, way beyond what we can afford, and then we're reducing our capital investment. So it's a give and take. So I appreciate this presentation. I know there's a lot of work that went into this. There's a lot of work that went into capital planning, but we need to do more in controlling the costs that I had mentioned. Thank you.
Director Flores.
Thank you all so much for the work that went into this unique budget process. I feel a lot more confident about moving forward with this budget since we have both the alternative service plan and the budget that accompanies that, as well as a strategy to utilize the different sources of loans such as TIFIA funding or the state loan. Just last year, we were here forecasting running out of SB 125 funds by the end of this fiscal year, and today we're talking about carrying forward millions, tens of millions of dollars into the next year. While we have some uncertainty with the state, and future sources of funding, I believe that this budget sets us up for success. The ridership, customer surveys, and QPRs show the significant improvements that BART is making, and we still have more improvements that are coming down the pike, such as the improved headways that are going to benefit lines across the system. So I want to acknowledge the previous comments from our chair and Chris that things have been challenging. A lot of work has gone into getting us not only developing this budget, but also providing a level of service that has gotten us to this point. A point where we're seeing ridership grow, a point where we're seeing capital and operational investments pay off. And the board could have gone a different direction years ago. They could have cut staff, they could have cut service to right-size it to that low ridership that the system was facing almost a decade ago at this point. I believe that if the board had followed that path, we would not be here seeing QPRs that are nearly all at or exceeding our goals. Just the last QPR for Q3 was almost all green. And that was the most green I've ever seen one of those before. So a lot of work from BART staff from top to bottom. Every single level has stepped up to the plate to meet the challenges that COVID has caused. And this system has been innovative in improving its service with the limited resources and challenging landscape that's out there. And this budget is a product of that innovation and of that work that has gone into it. So I'm confident in voting yes on this budget and appreciate all of the work that this organization has done to get us where we are today. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to associate myself with Director Flores' comments. I think you really grounded, what our decision actually is, what we've done in the past, and where we continue to strive to go, and the work that staff has done to lead us there. Vice President Wright?
Thank you. I'll be brief, and I would also associate myself with Director Flores' comments. I think, big picture, we're talking about one track, a two-track process. And it's the track we hope that we go down. And I think looking at where we are right now, we continue to see ridership grow, we continue to see crime go down, and we continue to see record levels of customer satisfaction. And that is a result of the investments that we've made. I think it makes sense that we continue to make those investments while also controlling costs where we can. I think this budget does that. And so I'm proud to support this budget moving forward, and I hope that it's the budget we'll actually be enabled to enact over the next fiscal year. I also just wanted to follow up on comments I made 2 weeks ago. While there continues to not be a specific line item on resurfacing for our plazas in the mission reflected in this budget, I have had follow-up conversations with staff. I remain confident we're going to pursue all the available funding opportunities to do right by that project and do right by the mission. And I will certainly be speaking up if we don't, but I have a lot of faith in our staff, and I'm happy to support this budget going forward.
Thank you. Let's go to Director Wren.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to not only thank staff, but thank my colleagues for the last several months. And I think since I've come on the board here at the end of 2024, this pending fiscal cliff and how we get there and how we accomplish that has been the topic of conversation. So I appreciate that cognizant approach that we've had. And then just to acknowledge staff for all their hard work and effort, not only to come up with a balanced budget for this year, but even giving us some scenarios on an alternative plan, what-if scenarios. It's a lot of work just to get in one balanced budget and let alone multiple budget opportunities. So I wanted to acknowledge that. I want to align my comments with my other colleagues about the metrics that we're achieving right now. The reduction in crime, the cleanliness scores, our efficiencies is all because of the investment we put into the BART system. And hopefully that all those metrics continue to improve and continue to grow. And a lot of things in this budget, it's a very conservative budget. And there's also ample opportunity that hopefully more revenues and better things will help for us. But obviously, having a budget is giving us guidelines and some metrics to operate under, but then to continually to push staff on our expenditure side. And I know we're working very hard on that. We've done some measures to control things internally. I feel like there's still more work to be done in that front. So just because we're approving a budget today does not mean we're not going to continue to look for opportunities to improve our expenses and do that. I know there's some public sentiment out there as well, being approached at future revenue opportunities, that there's some pushback about what else are we doing internally to kind of control our expenses on that. So we'll continue to have those discussions. I appreciate the balanced budget. It's not easy. Kind of call it balanced, where you have some deferrals and loans, which, yes, it's kind of balanced to look at the bottom line, but when you're relating future budgets to repay those loans or repay those deferrals, something we can look at as a board to continue to champion. But appreciate my colleagues, lots of different opinions, but I feel like there's a general consensus where we are today. And I don't know if we had a second from Foley's motion, but if not, I would second the budget. Oh, you second, but only so I'll throw a third in there just because I don't know. But thank you again for the opportunity.
Our Deputy General Counsel is smiling. Thank you, Director Wren. Director Ghosh.
Let's see. I agree with a lot that has been said. I think for me, public transit is really a public good, and it kind of sucks to be in a position where we have to so closely manage expenses, revenue, and kind of run it as a business instead of providing the service that our communities need. With the alternative service plan, for example, looking really closely at where we're cutting service, we're cutting where our revenue is lower than the cost of providing service. And yet, every community meeting that I go to, most people want more BART. They want BART to start earlier on Sunday so they can take it to the airport. And I think it really speaks to the importance of BART to the quality of life in the Bay Area and the need to have BART regardless of whether we're able to generate revenue from that. That being said, the position we're in is the position we're in. I really want to thank staff. It might look like today on 3 big items we're moving pretty quickly, but that's only because we've heard multiple presentations, have had multiple briefings, and had really in-depth conversations, at least I have, about each of these items, which is why I feel confident about seconding this motion and voting for this budget that we have in front of us. Of course, we're all going to do everything we can to continue to advocate for greater funding for our capital needs so we can continue to be a reliable service. And I just want to say that the QPRs look so good, but what's also important to me is my personal experience writing the system and the stories and anecdotes I hear from riders, and that aligns with the numbers we're seeing. And I think that's also really important because there is a perception of the system that is also improving. So that to me is equally important as our numbers. And so far I've been hearing really great things about how we are providing safe, reliable, and frequent service. And I hope we can continue to do that. Every time we talk about right sizing, I agree with Director Rayburn's earlier comment. Right sizing can mean going both ways, both reducing but also making sure we're meeting the needs of our riders and the public. So thank you very much, staff, for this budget. Look forward to continuing to work with you on increasing revenue and increasing our efficiency while maintaining service.
Thank you, Director Rayburn.
Thank you, Chair Lee, and thank you to Pam and Chris and all the people that are in the audience here today. You illustrate that this is a very meaningful event for the BART district to pass a budget while we're facing a fiscal cliff. We will pass a balanced budget. And that balance first was presented formally to us on April 9th in a preliminary draft budget proposal. Many of you will remember bringing your families. It was Bring Your Kids to Work Day that morning, and it added a little levity before we buckled down and began working in earnest on creating this draft budget. I want to note that Chris's comments about the greenhouse gas reduction funds provides tremendous amount of uncertainty in the future for us. And that's something that we feel, I know that many of us went to Sacramento, we lobbied, we worked hard. We sent off letters with logos from 40, 50 agencies and organizations. We fought. Just this week, the California Transit Association sent out an update report on the greenhouse gas reduction fund efforts. And specifically, the Senate has proposed in their budget bill a mechanism to keep the greenhouse gas reduction fund whole. I'm not going to go in depth into this today, but I want to ask that we agendize in the PPAL committee at our next meeting a review of Senate Bill 109, the Senate budget bill, as it pertains to the greenhouse gas reduction funds. As well, a companion bill in the Assembly is less benevolent regarding the greenhouse gas funds and does not mention the Cap and Invest program. But we should also address the Assembly side. Now, I'm fully aware that, like BART, the state of California will pass a budget by June 15th in advance of the start of their July 1st fiscal year. However, the CTA update that we all received, I believe, it notes that the legislature, and I'll quote, "The legislature must pass the budget by June 15th. It is widely believed that the final negotiations on GGRF expenditures will extend into August." With that, I'll look forward to further discussions. This journey does not end. Thank you, everybody, and thank you particularly to Chris and Pamela for your hard efforts.
General Manager, any concerns with the request that Director Raymer just made?
Well, he's He's one director, and I'll take a look at that, and I'll sit with AGM of External Affairs and figure out what is the right time to bring those informational items back to this board. You know, I'm not signing up for the next BART board meeting on that's for sure, and I'm being respectful, Director Rayburn. But let me take a look at it. Let me sit with Michael Pimentel with the CTA, and when is the right time to bring that information back to have a meaningful discussion with the board? So more to follow on that discussion.
Okay. I mean, I would just generally support that request as part of our regular, state legislative affairs.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. Before we go to Board President, I'll just say I have been very supportive of this budget. I feel like this has been one of the more interactive budget processes I think that we've had in a while, both, the alternative service plan to the pushback I think that staff received and really responded to regarding all the borrowing options. I really appreciate how responsive you were to all of the concerns in many different ways that this board raised. At the end of the day, we know if we're doing things right, if our ridership is going up. That is the best measure of our success, of whether we are providing safe, reliable, affordable, convenient transit service. And I think the numbers bear out that the budgets that we have passed previously have been the right moves. They've been the right budget moves, they've been the right investments, they've been the right policy moves, and it has allowed us to continue to where we are today. Now, we have multiple scenarios ahead of us. We have planned for them. And this scenario that almost all of us are voting yes on today, I think shows the work that we have done over the last year and many years to be able to provide great service for the region and for our BART riders. So I look forward to voting yes on this. Take us home, President.
Thank you, Director Lee. I just want to say to Pam and Chris and the rest of the team, I know that you have many sleepless nights, Pam, especially you, but just wanted to bring it back that BART has been going through many years of very difficult times. And this happens in cities as well, too. It's not just transportation. But a lot of folks have to kind of step back and think about what's happened the last several years. And so bringing back a budget that is not necessarily going to hurt our riders is huge. It's a big win. There's a lot of moving parts within the BART agency and the transportation. I mean, we're in 5 different counties, we're in 50 stations. It's not an easy task to do. But our board, challenged you. We challenged to go back and make changes and also come back and say what happens if the budget doesn't pass. So we're being very conscientious of what the future of BART will be within the next several years. It is true, what Director Lee said is that we're seeing the increase of ridership, and that's because, one, things are changing. And two, right now, a lot of folks are also wanting to be able to minimize their costs going out. We're not only as an agency, but also as I see it in the county, I see it within the cities. A lot of folks are struggling right now, and they want to make sure that their dollar counts in every place, whether it's groceries, whether it's gas, whether it's taking BART transportation. But it's really important for us to have really come back, hone down to what we needed to do to be able to bring the head counts, to lower them, to be able to pass a budget, and not necessarily on the backs of our riders. And so it's really important for us to be able to pass this budget so that we could also see what's going to be happening within the future of BART. But I appreciate the time. I do appreciate all the folks, and I'm talking about and speaking about the riders that still have confidence in BART every single day when they take it. And they see the improvements and they tell their friends and family. And the reason why I say that is because I'll be talking or speaking with folks in public and they'll say, I haven't been on BART for years, but I just took BART the other day and I've seen the improvements. So when you hear that, and I always tell folks, tell your friends, tell your family members, because that's how it starts, spreading again. But I do have confidence that folks will keep riding BART, and we will be seeing our numbers increase. I really, truly believe that people do want to make and see BART become and be successful in the future. So I appreciate all the hard work. I know that it's as soon as we close this budget, then we start working on the next one. So again, thank you to all the entire team that was able to bring this forward.
Let's go to vote.
Okay, Director Ames.
No.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Ghosh.
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
Director Rayburn.
Yay.
Director Ridd.
Yes.
Vice President Wright.
Aye.
President Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-1.
All right. Thank you, colleagues. We exceeded my expectations. So I'll pass it back to the board president.
Thank you, and we will move on to item number 4, which is our engineering and operations item, and then I will go ahead and pass this over to Chairperson Foley.
Thank you, President Hernandez. Colleagues, we have one information item before us this morning, and it's regarding the M-Line service disruptions, and I will turn it over to Assistant General Manager of Operations, Sylvia Lamb.
Thank you, Director, and good morning, Directors. We're happy to be here today to give you an update and final of the findings related to the M-Line disruptions that we saw last year. This is a brief overview of what we're going to talk about, and I get to have the first slide. You've seen this slide before, so bear with me. I'm going to do it again. Just describing our traction power system, where PG&E provides our power, and it's high 115 kV AC. That goes through a switching station, which could be through the utility or through BART, and then that steps that voltage down to 34.5 kV AC, and you hear us talk about this a lot, our right and left cables, so we have 2 cables through the system. Those 34.5 kV cables feed our BART substations. The substations then take that power and step it down and change it from AC to DC and make it 1,000 volts, and that gets fed to our third rail. The train comes along and picks up that power from the third rail through the paddles or the collector shoes, and then that goes through the car, and part of that power propels the car forward. Part of it powers what's inside the train itself, different auxiliary functions, and then whatever's left over goes back through the wheels to the running rails and goes back to the BART substation, and that's called our negative return path. And that's really important because power needs to have a complete circuit. And so this is the way our system works, but I'm going to turn it over to Miat San, our Chief Infrastructure Officer, to talk a little bit more details about the system.
Good morning, Directors. Before we dive deeper, I'd like to briefly review how BART's traction power system works as a network. This diagram shows the full pathway of the power that runs our trains. High voltage AC power from PG&E is connected to our 34.5 kV sub-transmission system. The left and right cables shown there, and they run throughout our service territory and provide system redundancy. That AC power feeds into traction power substations at approximately every 2 to 3 miles. Transformers and rectifiers located inside the substations perform the conversions and distribution of DC power for the trains. The entire system is safeguarded by circuit breakers and protective relays that continuously monitor conditions and isolate issues to maintain safety and reliability. The devices, such as sectionalizing breakers and gap breakers, allow us to align and route power between multiple sources and loads. The key takeaway is that this is a long and deep interconnected system, from PG&E all the way to the trains. Reliable operations depend on every part of that chain working together. Next, we will discuss the scale and complexity of the traction power system along our wayside infrastructure. The map at the top right shows the 14 high-voltage switching stations where we receive power from PG&E. The shaded box on the map highlights the specific areas of focus for our investigation. The area between PG&E's Washington Street switching station in Oakland and the Valencia Street switching station in San Francisco. This includes the Transbay Tube and represents one of the busiest and operationally critical segment of our system. Within this corridor are multiple traction power substations and thousands of interconnected components, including switching stations, breakers, relays, miles of third rails, insulators, and the full negative return network. The ones shown in red are the 3 new substations that we've brought online recently. The 2 on San Francisco side are brand new. The one in gray on the east side of Transbay Tube is a portable temporary unit. We have disconnected that one after the new substations was energized there. All of these elements interact electrically, and a change in one location can influence condition many stations and miles away. The important point here is not any single component, but rather the interdependence of all components working together. In a corridor this vast and complex, with so many possible interaction points, diagnosing a root cause requires looking holistically and systematically at overall system behavior, not just individual pieces of equipment or location. This is why identifying issues in this area are extremely complex and time-consuming. The investigation is about understanding a large electrical ecosystem in motion. Focusing on the vehicle itself and how it interacts with the traction power system. Once the 1,000-volt DC power reaches the third rail, the train collects it through the collector shoes. From there, the energy flows through various onboard propulsions and auxiliary systems, shown by the red path in the schematic, before returning through the running rails to complete that circuit. We have 2 of these propulsion units and one auxiliary power supply per car, shown by the arrows. What's important is that the vehicle's electrical behavior is dynamic and continuously changing. Power demand fluctuates every moment based on train speed, grade, passenger load, how many propulsion units are active, and even the physical interaction between the collector shoes and the third rail. During braking, the trains may also push energy back into the system through regenerative braking. Because these factors vary second by second, the vehicle becomes an active element in the overall power system. It adds another layer of variability that we must consider when evaluating how the traction power system performs under various operational conditions. So when we look at system performance, we consider not only the wayside infrastructure, but also how the trains are behaving electrically as they move through the corridor.
So with that, directors, I just want to review some of the investigation and the testing that went on. It was highly comprehensive, and from what Miat's talked about, you can probably gather why that is. There were many tests, and when we saw results of certain tests, then we created additional tests that we had to go through. We had the consultant team and their various consultants working with BART staff through the whole way. I was especially impressed personally by the forensics, which I wasn't expecting some of that, even looking at the debris that was on the wall to see what type of material that was. So very, very comprehensive. We did high pot testing, which is a really high electrical testing of elements, much higher than what we run the system at, like 45, 50 times higher, just to see. We perform non-destructive and destructive testing, tens of thousands, I think it's fair to say, reviews of reports and logs, and just the multitude of that. And then also testing a 7-car train on the Hayward test track, where we actually removed sections of the coverboard to see how the train reacted in there. And I did want to also point out that In the last update we gave, we talked about the insulator testing. We had done and completed insulator testing. There's not new testing that was done with that. And we did mention, our path forward at that time, but I wanted to reiterate that our Chief Maintenance Officer, Michael Gibson, is working with MEOT and others on a standard operating procedure that's using strategies to address insulators and make sure that we have a good program moving forward. And we're actively engaged with the industry to evaluate alternative insulator designs and maintenance practices.
Despite the complexity of the system, we've completed several major actions to strengthen stability and address potential contributors. First, we added 3 new substations, 2 in downtown San Francisco and 1 at the east portal of the Transbay Tube, providing an additional 25 megawatts of capacity and improving redundancy. Second, we performed detailed inspections of the negative return and cross-bond systems, rebalancing loads and isolating faulty negative grounding devices. Third, we improved breaker performance by installing modern multi-purpose relays and refining operating sequences to reduce nuisance trips. Finally, we completed substantial fieldwork, including insulated joint renewals and removals, installation of 4,000 plus feet of new rail, and nearly 700 direct fixation pad replacements.
Not to mess me up a little bit, I wanted to point out, since we didn't really put that in previously, and I don't know that I mentioned it to all the directors in briefings, but all of these items that we did were part of capital projects and the capital funding that we have. Sorry, Mia, go ahead.
No problem. Together, these actions strengthen reliability and mitigate several high priority and high impact risk factors in the corridor. One of the most impactful upgrades we completed was replacing the multi-purpose protection relays at the 3 gap breaker stations inside the Transbay Tube. These new relays are modern, faster, with greater sensitivity than the older generation. Their role is to constantly monitor current levels, detect abnormal conditions, and isolate faults before they escalate, making them essential for both system safety and reliability. One of the key challenges with MPRs is properly selecting the right settings. These settings determine how quickly a relay reacts to various current levels. The trade-off is significant. If the settings are too sensitive, we risk unnecessary and frequent trips that could disrupt service. If the settings are too high, we risk exposing equipment to stress or damage during a fault. Finding that balance is more of an art than an exact science. It requires engineering judgment, operational experience, and field data, especially in an area like the Transbay Tube. The newly installed MPRs give us a better capability to strike that balance, improving our ability to detect issues early while reducing avoidable interruptions. This upgrade is a key step in improving overall performance in this critical segment of the system.
And then, Mia, correct me if I'm wrong, though, but as we talk about right-sizing the fleet, especially when we're talking about adding cars, then we need to also go back and ensure that these settings are correct. Is that right? So anytime we do anything different on this system, these MPRs need to be adjusted or reevaluated, right? Okay. All right. So I get to talk about the fun stuff again, the tangible results that we've been seeing since we've been doing all this work. So I don't know how many times I can talk about the positive of Q3, but the more the better, right? So you remember I mentioned that January through March was the best quarter outside of COVID in over 10 years. And March had been the best month. I said had been the best month since 2014. Well, May is even better month than March. And in May, we saw 10 trains delayed because of vehicle issues. That is the first time ever since we've been counting train delays. Some of the other things that we're seeing is a reduction in corrective maintenance. As you can see from the graph up the top, that reduction is pretty significant, and we're expecting to see that go down. I do want to point out that this is corrective maintenance just in the area that we have been talking about. It's not the overall system, but we continue to monitor that. And then below that chart is the same one that we talked about during the QPR, although we've added April and May onto there. And what we're seeing is the percentage of train delays that are 10 minutes or less, that percentage is getting bigger of the train delays, which means that the issues that we're seeing on the system are typically less critical and easier to fix in a faster and more efficient way. So as far as our conclusion goes, the bottom line is there is no single mutual cause to every single event that happened, common to them. There's not a single asset failure. There are multiple factors that could have contributed when they're all combined together that may have made this happen, and we already went through those factors earlier in the slides. Some of the things that we're doing moving forward that I think are going to be very powerful is having predictive software on the trains along with real-time monitoring of our power system. We have monitoring, have had monitoring at our substations, but I think what we need and what we all agree is that we need real-time monitoring in between those substations. So we've already purchased data loggers and are working on getting those installed so that we can identify any slight blips or anomalies before they become a bigger issue. But I think one of our biggest opportunities here is implementing formal change management processes and governance procedures, which we've already started by anything that could impact service for whatever reason goes to the GM's office for their review and understanding before we move forward with that work. But we need to do more of that and create some formal procedures, which we'll be working on over the next 6 months. One of the things I forgot to mention as far as the investigation, I had it really big on my sheet here too, is that the consultant is finaling their report, so you will get a very hefty report of all the findings, all the recommendations, everything that happened on the investigation, and that report will come to you and the public in August. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you for the presentation and the update. Mr. Secretary, do we have any public comment?
We do. We have 4 comments currently. The first in person will be Jerry Grace, followed by Glenn Overton. Jerry? Okay, Glenn Overton. And he will be followed online by Alita Dupree and Barney Smits.
President Hernandez, Vice President Wright, and directors, General Manager Powers, and staff. Systems that are very complex. It used to be an engineering adage, keep it simple, stupid. I had a situation up there at one of these Bay Area refineries where I was responsible for controlling the relief gas system, which is full of H2S. And it rides the lowest pressure such that anything in that system can get out. However, during my shift, a 3,200 volt motor cable sheared and blew out the overhead. And of course, a situation like that readily is, it's got to be my fault. Pointing fingers instead of finding out the root cause. Well, it turns out that that compressor had a mechanic realignment and the shaft was, asymmetric or whatever. And it just rumbled off the base, big old giant 4-inch, cable. However, how do you think I felt with the fingers being pointed and lighting up Richmond, the whole city of Richmond? Everybody wants to know what's going on. These systems are very complex. However, out of necessity, we're not just trying to control H2S going into the atmosphere and burning a whole city out. We're protecting lives. Of course, that was also protecting lives too. So I appreciate your due diligence in finding out root causes, going to no expense, such that these will not be recurrent. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Do we have any additional public comment?
We have two online. Alita Dupree, followed by Barty Spitz. Alita?
Thank you, Chair Mark Foley and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Fold. I come to you with 56 years of experience with the New York City subway, which includes knowledge of their electricity system. Thank you for the very transparent and detailed presentation that you have. One thing I think is lacking is, what is an M line? When I look at the New York City subway, there is an M line, but it's not an M line, it's an M service. So letters such as A, B, C, or M, or numbers such as 1, 2, or 7 are services. 6th Avenue, Concourse, Fulton Street, Queens Boulevard are lines. I wish we had a map of what a BART M line is to make it clear. I'm looking forward to this fuller report that will show what is happening here. And as I often say, electricity is foundational. I do remember when these incidents happened in various places in our BART, including one near San Leandro, which caused a fire. And we had to pass a special item in order to fix that. But where do we go from here? I ask that you not see me as impaired standing. I am broadcasting from my all-electric home. And yes, I have an electric stove with coiled elements. That does not make me simple-minded or country. It works, along with my induction hot plate. But I have experience with electricity, and I want us to have the safest BART that we can have. Yes, I think my cooking with electricity is very good. But what I really want us to get out of this is to remember absolutely that BART is the people's system. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. Sylvia or Miat, did one of you want to respond to the M line?
I'd be happy to. The M line is the area between West Oakland down to Daly City. Thanks, man. Daly City.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Barty Spitz, and we have a new person after that, Gerald. Barty?
My name is Barney Smits. I'm a licensed professional engineer with over 25 years experience as a BART engineer and fire life safety expert. This report is essentially useless. While the diagrams are nice and the thousands of hours expended are helpful, it has completely lost focus on the problem. Blown insulators and coverboard fires are not even mentioned in this report. On the conclusions page, item 1 states, there is no single cause for all incidents. This is correct, but we are not asking about all incidents. We are asking about failed insulators and coverboard fires. Item 2 concludes multiple factors. Removed crossbonds are definitely a likely factor. Disparity between substations, third rail gaps, and overvoltage are all misleading. The system has worked fine for years, so really, what is wrong? Item 3, predictive software could be great, but is useless in improving resiliency if you don't do the maintenance. Clean insulators, replace missing crossbonds, replace and adjust the MPRs and breakers. Item 4, real-time monitoring and time synchronization. Sounds good, but this is what the MPRs and breakers are supposed to do. Item 5, change management and government procedures with executive review. How is this going to reduce coverboard fires and get insulators clean? The insulators are clearly the weak link here. The cover boards and fiberglass brackets will not burn without a large amount of energy to start the fire. Next, the third rail is constructed of steel and aluminum and won't burn. The insulators are ceramic and won't burn, but when coated with rail dust, will conduct 1,000 volts to electrical ground. What should be clear is that the 1,000 volts will find the easiest way to ground, and if that is down the dust-coated insulator, it will create an arc. That arc will produce enough energy to start a coverboard fire. Remember the disruptive fire incident in the Transbay tube. Thank you.
Thank you, Barney. I appreciate your feedback.
And our last speaker is Gerald. Gerald?
My name is Gerald Cawthon. I'm a retired engineer. I just wanted to make one comment that I remember from my past experience. When the overtime rate in a large organization increases, there's a reason for that. I mean, something's going on that's causing that overtime to go up. And it needs to be looked at to make sure it's really justified. It's all too easy to feel that overtime, number one, gives a person more money, but also it gives the person a reason to feel like he's more valuable. So there's a strong incentive once overtime starts to rise to make sure it keeps rising. And that is often the result of poor planning or maybe even inadequate oversight. So I would say that whatever's going on there needs to be some justification written around that overtime, and it be kept to a bare minimum. Information that is beyond its useful life should be fixed quickly with an outside team that can do the job efficiently and as soon as possible. Doing it by using overtime is not the most efficient way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Do we have any additional public comment?
That was the last comment.
All right. I'll turn to directors. Do we have any director comments? I don't currently see. Oh, Director Ames.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Let's go to slide 16. So, sorry. Oh, there we go, yeah. Slide right before that, yeah. Say they're good. There we go, thank you. So this is the conclusion that we really don't have the root cause is very unsettling for me. We spent a lot of time. We looked at a lot of equipment. We said there's an ecosystem. And I am very just perplexed why we can't come up with a game plan from this. Now, I appreciate the SOP, the Standard Operating Procedure for insulators we talked about, Sylvia, so I really appreciate this. We're going to look at the insulators in depth and possibly change our practices so they're not exploding. So that's great. Okay. But there's a lot of other issues here that I feel like, okay, we probably are actually trying to address multiple factors. We're getting the crews out there to fix. The operation crews are going out there. They're creating overtime. This is why our budget is very high on overtime for FY27. It's over 80 million. I think last year we spent it was a little over 90 million actual overtime last year. So to me, this is, again, this whole infrastructure planning effort. So if I look at our wonderful document that we have, our 10-year capital plan, it says mechanical infrastructure rehabilitation. We have an ongoing time-critical unfunded need of $417 million just for that category. Then we've got an electrical infrastructure rehabilitation, ongoing time-critical unfunded, that's $365 million. So I would expect, just because we have a backlog, we know we have unfunded projects, we should be looking at what are the projects we can do so we have a conclusion. We know we have fixed this, we are certain this isn't going to happen again. And let's just go back to maybe one of the slides that you're very excited about, like we have no disruption. Can you go to the slides that we have there? Yeah, so, okay, this is good, yeah. So this is, to me, a mixed message. Again, I've brought this up before, like we're saying we have a great achievement here. The lowest number of delayed trains. And again, this could be a scenario that we have, and then we're going to have another San Leandro fire somewhere else. I don't know where it's going to be because we have an unfunded backlog of projects. It's 1.4 billion per year, 14 billion of unfunded projects. Okay, so it's a huge task to try to figure out what projects to accomplish in every year. So I think we need to invest more. So just to go back to the conclusion, let's just go back to that slide, the last one that we started with. We spent a lot of effort and testing, and we don't have a game plan here. I can't accept that we don't have a conclusion. This to me sounds like we never really did understand what assets we need to replace and when and why. So maybe we can talk about this at some other capital meeting that we're going to have later on. Maybe I think we're going to have another 10-year plan that comes before us. But I'm very disturbed by this finding, and I really would have expected to have some kind of strategy in place at the conclusion of this report. So maybe we can redo this. We can not redo it, but I mean, we can come up with some conclusions that we are certain that this is going to not happen again somewhere else, and we have a system-wide plan in play. And then I will believe our miraculous minimal service disruptions. Because right now I can't buy the service disruptions. They're going to just be magically pretty much at a minimum level. The service disruptions are probably going to increase, or something else is going to happen. So I'm just not seeing how we're going to rectify this with our current capital planning effort. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Vice President Wright.
Thank you. I think I had a pretty different takeaway from this report. To start with, we're looking at the slide that has the conclusion, which is that there wasn't one cause. There are several likely causes. And this presentation went through all the different actions that are being taken to address each of those likely causes. So I want to express my appreciation for your resistance of the urge to give an easy, singular answer that is wrong and give a more accurate, more complex answer that actually helps us address real problems and provide a better service to our customers. I really appreciate that. I also appreciate the focus on predictive and preventative maintenance and the contrast of that with corrective maintenance, because I think whatever we can do to, address problems before they happen is always the preferred approach. And I think we really benefit from doing, this kind of root cause analysis, this kind of post-incident report. It also should not take a system-wide service disruption for us to identify deficiencies in our service, right? Which is not to say that disruptions won't happen. They will. This is a complex system. We're never going to get to the point of 100% performance. So all, I think we as a board can ask is that we are doing what we can to be proactive and not just reactive. This is a reactive report. We asked for it. We appreciate it. It's necessary. And we are learning from what happened and trying to do better going forward. I think that's exactly what we should be doing. And to the extent that there are decisions or actions that we can take as a board to help you with this work, to help you with this project, to make sure you have, the resources, the staff that you need, let us know. Because I think we definitely want to be allies in this effort going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Flores, followed by Director Ghosh.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So I just want to clarify that even though we didn't identify one singular root cause or multiple root causes, the vulnerabilities and issues that were found have been fixed or addressed or on track to be addressed, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks. And additionally, so in order to help us keep track of what is happening in the system to identify issues earlier, we are investing in capturing more information as well as predictive software. And I do think that this will be great to make sure that as we're making those infrastructure improvements, which there's a lot of that going on, and we're adding either more trains or cars, we do see whether there are, outliers in that data and variables that could cause issues so that we can identify it sooner and address it, which is something that we, I think, desperately need now in a world where we can capture so much data and analyze it much more quickly than before. So I do have a question about whether with corrective maintenance hours going down, does that allow staff to focus on those capital projects that improve the system?
Yes, that's correct. Again, I just want to point out, those are the capital hour, or the corrective maintenance hours in that section of the railroad. But yes, absolutely, that allows them to do preventative maintenance, predictive maintenance, and also work on capital projects.
Awesome, great. And I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, but do you know off the top of your head how many insulators failed recently compared to other years?
I do. There were 2 that failed in 2026. There were 8 in 2025. There were, I may get this wrong. I think there were 18 in 2023 and something like 12 in 2019 and some variation of that, but those are the high numbers.
Got it. So insulator failures have been going down. Corrective maintenance hours are going down. It seems to me that the investments that we're making are supporting a well-functioning system. And it does seem that the insulators themselves don't seem to be the root cause of those issues. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding all of this correctly, because as policymakers, we do have to make decisions into what investments have to be made and making sure that we are identifying the actual issue to make those decisions. So even though there's no smoking gun here, I am encouraged by the direction that we're going. And as issues come up, I'm sure we'll be updated so that we can make those decisions on where to make investments. So thank you.
And Director Flores, just if I can jump in, I'm going to state the obvious. It would have been much easier for us to come in within a single root cause and tell you, hey, we found it. And so just want to state the obvious. We are trying to be as transparent as possible. We believe that all of these things had contributing factors. But yes, it would have been much easier to come in to deliver a single root cause and get out of here. So thanks.
Thank you. Director Ghosh.
I actually don't have much left to say. I agree with Director Wright and Flores's comments, and also I know it can be frustrating not to have a clear reason for why something happens, but I appreciate the honesty and transparency of y'all going through all of these tests and keeping an open mind about what the cause could have been. I think we talked about this at our briefing. I would rather that we spend this money on more proactive maintenance and sort of being out there and figuring out how we can do more routine investigations that can highlight these issues before they become an issue for our riders. So beyond encouraging that, I really don't have much to add to this. And I hope that we will continue to see these good QPRs and not have major service disruptions outside of what might be expected for a system that's so large. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. And let me just close the item by saying, like my colleagues, it would have been nice if there was a single smoking gun that we could have pointed to. I understand we have a very complex system, but I'm hoping that with all of the research and investigation and effort that went into this, part of the takeaways, as Director Ghosh had mentioned and others, is that we look at ways to improve upon our preventive maintenance program, predictive maintenance programs, and capital projects where we can identify areas where, maybe they wasn't a primary root cause, but how can we evolve from these learnings and what we find? So I appreciate all of the dedicated work that went into this, and I thank you very much. And President Hernandez, I will turn it back to you.
Yes, thank you, Sylvia and the team. Really appreciate you. Moving on to item number 5, which is our public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We have 3 people in the audience that currently want to address the board. The first is Mita Cucci, followed by Rafilva Kajela. Is Mita still here?
Thank you. Hi, I'm here as a concerned resident of East Oakland and BART rider, with my home BART being Coliseum. This isn't about me, but I want to make it clear of my determination as I'm here against my doctor's orders. I had surgery last week and I'm in quite some pain, but that hasn't stopped me to come here to the board of directors to ensure justice for Shaquille Coleman. I'm here asking the board for action and accountability around the hiring of Antoinette Turner, who oversees progressive policing and community engagement. As I'm sure you are all aware of Turner's actions and inaction during the assault and unlawful transportation of Shaquille Coleman and her participation in the cover-up of a hit and run by the San Leandro police chief. I do also want to recognize the Office of Independent Police Auditor and Inez Gonzalez for the work they have done thus far, and thank them for taking our concerns seriously. We see you in everything that you are doing. I still want to ensure that we call out that the BART police chief, Kevin Franklin, knew about Turner's previous history, and we deserve an explanation as to why that did not disqualify them for another position, let alone a public-facing position with BART. Our unhoused residents deserve the same dignity, safety, and protection as everyone else. A Black man deserves that same dignity. If Shaquille Coleman was from a more affluent community in this area, we know there would have been more accountability of those involved after his assault and kidnapping. And yet this person was essentially promoted to a regional position. How did that happen? I'm here to ask for the immediate termination of Deputy Antoinette Turner and public disclosure of what information BART leadership reviewed before making this hiring decision, and all hiring and promotional decisions moving forward, or thus far. To the board, you know what the right thing to do is, to take a step in the direction of restoring community trust. So please use your position and power to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next public speaker is Rafilwe Gajela.
Good morning. My name is Rafilwe. I'm a longtime BART rider, member of the Anti-Police Terror Project, and a very concerned community member. I'm here because accountability cannot be selective. If BART expects the public to trust its officers, the officers in leadership must be held accountable when they participate, witness, or condone misconduct. Lateral transfers of officers who have harmed community members is how people wind up dead. My community organization was born in the wake of the murder of Oscar Grant, which led to the Civilian Oversight Board, which we have been advocating to for the last several months. Antoinette Turner was present during the assault and unlawful transfer of Shaquille Coleman while serving as a San Leandro police officer. The public deserves answers about her role and why she failed to intervene. No officer who witnesses abuse and fails to stop it should be rewarded with a promotion. Antoinette Turner now oversees, as has been mentioned, the so-called Progressive Policing and Community Engagement Office at BART. Those responsibilities require credibility, integrity, and public trust. She has lost all of that. In fact, through this community campaign, it has become clear that the chief of BART PD, Kevin Franklin, has been fostering a department that reflects the patterns and practices that led to the creation of the Civilian Oversight Board to begin with. From BART PD's dismissal of the public when questioned about the department knowingly hiring Turner and being informed about her past harms and misconduct, their racially biased enforcement practices highlighted in Fair Traps, and their unwillingness to present on their current policies coming under public questioning. What happened to Shaquille Coleman should never have happened. The most vulnerable members of our community should be supported in engaging a resource that my family has needed our entire lives to survive, not further criminalized and harmed by them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speakers are Glenn Overton, Sharon Kidd, followed by Glenn Overton. Sharon?
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon, BART directors. How's everybody? This is familiar to me. I've served on the BART's Citizen Review Board, the inception after the Oscar grant, and I transitioned from Berkeley. When I was informed about this situation with DC Turner and Chief Franklin, I was appalled because I know both of them. I know both of them from before they got their positions as what they are today. I'm the type of person, and people who know my past, Dr. Rayburn, I'm one for right. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But we can't make a judgment until we get all the facts. We have to look at all the facts that are privy to the public and make a decision or come with some type of resolution. We're trying to take people's jobs, dismember people's professionalism, and right now we got a man in the White House trying to take us all down. And we got people out here that don't have medical coverage. We need to look at that. Also, we need to look at these two individuals. If someone made a mistake, let them be accountable for that mistake. Nobody's perfect. None of you sitting up there are perfect. I'm not perfect. But we have to move forward. It's not taking their jobs, it's making them be a better person. Again, I don't have all the facts, but I know these two people personally, professionally, and I know that they are good at what they do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Glenn Overton, and then we'll go online to Alita Dupree, Barney Smits, and Joe Johnson. Glenn?
Thank you.
I used to look at Dragnet. You remember that? Dun, 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 dun. Joe Friday. Responsibility of any police department, anywhere, is weighty, humbling. I challenge anybody to take on that responsibility when your life is 1 second away from extinguishment. I grew up with police in my family. My Uncle George Bernard, George Bernard or whatever, was a policeman. My Uncle Albert was a police tow truck driver. He carried 2 switchblades that were a foot long. I challenge anybody to do that job. Take it on. Moment of silence to the police department of BART.
Okay, we will go online now to Alita Dupree, followed by Barney Smits. Alita, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, President Melissa Hernandez and members. Alita Dupree for the record. Sheen Harwood, Team Folds. I can't be with you today. Hopefully next time. There is another person over 18 in the house, but they are not in the same room with me. Thought I'd let you know. Where do I fit into all of this? I did send you some letters, which I think are germane to the things of BART, though they show pictures of other places, which are near and dear to me and inspirational. And hopefully I will return to New York and try some new places and share of that, because we can learn from other places and other systems. You know, it is not easy. Not easy being in your boardroom sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't feel safe. Sometimes it doesn't feel welcoming. That's got to change. How do we bring about greater levels of welcoming and belonging when sometimes I'm out in the system and I'm wondering, is someone going skirt hunting today? I think about this scene in the film Sudden Impact, where Harry Callahan, known as Dirty Harry, takes issue with somebody in an elevator. Go watch the film. That I could be sitting in a train minding my own business, and I could be pulled from that train wearing a skirt, much like a scene in Heaven Help Us. Perhaps some in BART are opposed to my presence, but I want to feel the welcome. I know I get it from senior staff, the welcome. I want to belong on BART like I belong in the subway. I ask that you listen to those of us who treat you with respect. BART is the people's system. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Barney Smits. Barney?
My name is Barney Smits. I'm a licensed professional engineer with over 25 years experience as a BART engineer and fire life safety expert. We know that the ring around the bay has been an important concept for decades. We know that connecting BART to the South Bay is environmentally and economically crucial for the Bay Area and California. But it is clear that VTA does not have the ability to complete the BSV2 project. The VTA board members are becoming so concerned that several have announced that they will not be continuing on the board. And another member announced their resignation last Friday. Add to this that the last BSV2 Oversight Committee could not establish a quorum. With the VTA board falling apart, this leaves the entire project in the hands of VTA staff, which some of you will remember could not finish the Phase 1 extension. The VTA board authorized the BSV2 contract off-ramp last year, only to realize that their design was so bad that no other contractor was likely to bid on it. The project presented the serious risks of the current design and the need to reduce scope to try to get the tunnel boring started in 2028. In late 2025, VTA's original contractor, KST, asked to rejoin the project. Where is the rebid? Where is the rescoping? Where is the competitive bidding that is a requirement of the California contracting law? I have been asking for years that BART establish a BSV2 subcommittee, and it should be crystal clear that if BART does not step up, its involvement in this project the project will fail. Remember that VTA is required to pay BART for all operations and maintenance costs. These yearly operating costs could be as much as $500 million. VTA will not be able to pay this amount. Every member of this board needs to think seriously about this potential financial disaster. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joe Johnson, followed by Roland. Joe, please go ahead.
Thank you. Again, my name is Joan Johnson, and I strongly support Deputy Chief Antoinette Turner's leadership of BART progressive policing, and community engagement. Her experience in the community, over 16 years of law enforcement experience, investigations, youth engagement, demonstrations, and just being an all-around great person. She's accountable for de-escalation, building trust and to build trust for riders and the entire community. I urge BART to support her efforts to strengthen transparency, expand community outreach, and implement evidence-based reforms to improve safety for everyone. I further and truly ask the board to weigh criticisms carefully. Negative statements calling for action against Deputy Chief Turner appear ill-informed and in some cases based on incomplete or misleading information. Knee-jerk responses undermine due process and can discourage all qualified leaders from pursuing needed reforms. Reforming systems is difficult, very difficult. Please prioritize a fair, evidence-based review over reactionary measures of those with the loudest voices. Because someone has the loudest voice does not mean what they say is correct. Please, if I can request that you support Chief Turner and also the Chief of BART, Chief Franklin. Thank you.
And our next speaker is Roland. Roland?
Thank you. So, as you know, the VT Oversight Committee is supposed to be starting in about 45 minutes. And I urge every single BART board member who does not have a conflict to either, watch the meeting or at least watch the recording later. There are multiple items of concern. The first one is item number 9, where the VTA General Auditor is obviously making some recommendations about oversight of contracts. The real issue we've got here is contract packaging and being able to break up this massive project into parts that multiple bidders will be able to compete on, competitively. And instead of that, you're then going to move on to item number 10, where they basically said, okay, we've spent $1 billion so far, just over $1 billion. And now we're going to go out with a contract with just a tunnel and nothing else for $2.5 billion. And let me explain to you how they got there. They basically eliminated any kind of risk element to be able to have anybody bidding on these $2.5 billion contracts. And the most concerning thing is that they've eliminated the so-called adits, which is how we connect to the tunnel. They've got Gard Ziegler is doing the mining for the adit itself, but they got separate contracts for connecting the adit to the tunnel. That is a severe risk exposure that has to be addressed. And I will be sending you multiple communications between now and the next VTA board meeting on June 26th. Thank you.
That was the last public comment.
Okay, thank you. So we will go on to item number 6, which is our board matters. Any board member reports at this time? Director Rayburn.
Thank you very much, President Hernandez. Since our last board meeting I participated on May 29th on a transit panel discussion at Move Bay Area in Lafayette. On the 30th, I attended the League of Women Voters Bay Area annual meeting in Millbrae. On June 5th, I attended the Measure RR Bond Oversight Committee meeting in this room where they adopted the 2026 annual report on Measure RR. On June 5th, later that day, I went out to the Contra Costa County Building and Construction Trades Council picnic at the Martinez Shoreline. On June 6th, I had the pleasure of joining the parade at the San Leandro's Cherry Festival and followed up with tabling, and there were tens of thousands of people at the event. It was really a phenomenal day. On June 7th, during the Sunday single tracking in the Transbay Tube, crews took advantage of the M1 closure to piggyback track work onto the light fixture demolition, wiring, and LED fixture installation assembly line. I inspected the lighting fixture installation process. I visited the Maintenance and Engineering Control Center, viewed the new negative return shunts, and was able to touch the new KTE transit power substation. All of these elements, as you heard earlier, contribute to the improved reliability at BART. I fully believe that crews have been busy making the changes that are needed at BART to keep the system running reliably. Thank you. Oh, I'm not done. One more. Sorry. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of joining in the dedication of the East Bay Greenway Phase 2. It runs from the Coliseum BART to Seminary Avenue.
All right. Thank you, Director. Director Ghosh, and then followed by Director Wren.
Thank you. On May 28th, I went to the Downtown Berkeley Association's annual meeting. BART was acknowledged, but at the same time, I feel like BART could be acknowledged more in events like that. But it was great to see the mayor's report and hear from the DB about their ongoing plans, and also the chancellor was there talking about partnerships between the city and the university. And I hope that BART can be part of those conversations more actively as well, because none of those plans work without the existence of BART. I'm looking more to our GCR to be more proactive, for us to be more proactive talking to the university about the impacts of our alternative service plan on the plans that everyone's making. On June 10th, which is yesterday, I went to the meeting of the El Cerrito Richmond Annex Walk and Roll and Albany Rollers and Strollers, which are two advocacy groups that cover a large part of my district. Many advocates, many folks who appreciate BART, and also where I heard again, requests for BART to run Sunday mornings, for BART to run later at night so people can take it to concerts. A lot of worry about BART's financial situation as well. Really engaged community of advocates, and it was just great to be in their company and hear about, all of the things we could be doing more of if we had the resources. I also hope that there are some things that we can do, and Henry Simmons was there with me at this meeting, so he's taken down some notes, especially around signage. There's a lot of conversations about destinations not being announced or marked clearly when people take trains. I think with the things we're doing around FIFA, I hope some of those things we can continue on, for when we have big games or big events where somebody was suggesting that when something's happening at Chase Stadium, which BART station you're getting off at, like announcing that on the trains. Of course, we have to do a better job of the announcement system. That continues to be a bane of my existence, that announcements are still not all clear. But generally, a lot of love for BART and lots of like really great suggestions that I think we could do at no or low cost. So thank you.
All right. Appreciate Director Abrams' report. I don't recommend touching a power substation, but that's nice that you did. Just for the public out there, we don't advocate for that. So just to be clear. And this probably should have been brought up under the general manager's reports. I know we had some media about our Clipper 2 rollout in the cubics, and the latest revision, there was a couple issues with that, and I wasn't sure if you wanted to give any comment on any updates on that at this time. If not, you don't. That's cool. Future stuff. And you were quoted in the media too, so you want to
I am, and I'm, everybody knows I bleed BART blood. But from a regional perspective, we deserve better, and we've been crystal clear. I've been quite aggressive in demanding better and pushing folks to be better. And I'm telling you, there's a closed session at MTC on this topic on the 24th of this month, and they're going to take it up. I was in a couple of meetings lately with folks that, technical companies that heard those comments, saw that video, not just this one, Director Wren, but other ones. And they're like, they were in here yesterday with Sylvie and I, like, Powers, how can we help? What can we? And so it's getting out there, Director Wren, and that's the whole point, to improve the rider experience out there. And so, and I'm trying to point them in the right direction, but it's an area that I'm looking to, for some improvements, especially, going into the fall here. So I will keep you posted on it. I will not back away from it until it gets fixed. And, I'll make sure it gets covered appropriately in the GM's report.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your leadership. That was my report.
Director Foley.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple of brief items. June 1st, I attended the Contra Costa Transportation Authority's Bus Transit Coordinating Committee. On June 5th, I also attended the Contra Costa Building and Construction Trades 12th Annual Networking Lunch. Sorry I missed you, Director Rayburn, but I was there a Director Wren, not right. Anyway. June 6th, I attended the BART Prom, which I didn't comment on earlier. It was a fantastic event, an even greater idea. So I really want to say kudos to everyone on staff that came up with this idea. This was a fantastic way to celebrate BART in the Bay Area and be part of community. So it was just a great thing to do. And then this last Tuesday, I made a presentation to the Brentwood City Council regarding the defining year for BART. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last chance. Any other member reports? Not seeing any. We will go on to roll call for introductions.
There were two members of the public that wanted to speak on that last item.
Okay.
The first is Alita Dupree. Alita?
Thank you, President. Melissa Hernandez and members. Alita Dupree for the record. She and her with Team Folds. I usually don't speak on this item, but thank you for sharing of your engagements in getting out there and speaking of the things of BART. Especially, it looks like a lot of these events are places that I'm not able to go because I don't have various forms of memberships or admissions that would get me in those doors, but you do, so you're able to channel that on behalf of us. Yet I am most interested and excited about when I hear about us getting engaged, really in the deep things of BART. One of you went and I presume in the wee off hours of seeing work being done in the tunnel. I speak about lighting all the time. That's something that is very important to me. So hopefully I will get to see the fruits of that labor as I go through the tunnel. And yeah, again, you getting into doors that I can't, places that are not public, and being able to share with people in decision-making positions that I'm not able to reach. So I thank you for your outreach and being able to channel what happens in BART to those that I may not be able to reach. Thank you.
The next speaker is Joe Kunzler. Joe?
Oh, thank you, District Secretary. Joe Kunzler here. Pronouns he, him, his, Lisa Trustman. Just want to thank you guys for all you do. I understand that there was a BART prom, and I wish I could have flown down there because it's so great to see transit fans dancing around and celebrating public transportation. I can't wait for the trustees to win the ballot measure this fall. And I just want to also add a bit of good news for you, BART. Sound Transit is about to release into free agency Terry Metalis, who's a director of mega projects. So hopefully you're able to sign her from us Sound Transit 12s. And I want to wish all of you well, and go BART, and let's go save BART in public transit in the Bay Area. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last speaker for this item is Glenn Overton. Glenn?
President Hernandez and directors, and speaking truth to power is power, and staff. The other day, I was at Powell Street, and I wanted to use the restroom there. Very interesting. There was a line that had formed, and there were people of various persuasions or whatever. However, we all had something in common. Every one of us. A disgusting odor oozed out of that place. It did. And I felt sorry for those people because their dignity had been wounded. There is a truth. All humans, I don't care what your position, you could be the King of England, have those. But that didn't stop me from feeling sorry for people who had come halfway around the world to use those facilities and to be embarrassed by them. If I had had a hole to dig in, I would have dug that hole and jumped in it, because I felt so sorry for their personal dignity, something that they could not control themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, President
The draft needs to be changed such that the negative draft will draw.
President Hernandez, let me look into that. I'll get with Sylvia and find out what was going on at Powell Street on Tuesday at the restrooms.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you. Mr. Overton? Any others?
That was the last
All
comment.
right, not seeing any other public speakers. We will go on to roll call of introductions. Not seeing any roll call of introductions, and we do not have any in memoriam. All right, so we will adjourn the meeting at 11:31, and we'll see you at our next meeting.